Like, how'd y'all like meet up and like form basically?
We're all in the same area here. I mean, it's a pretty incestuous scene as far as like music goes. So everybody knows everybody else. Anybody that's a decent musician usually has another band with somebody else. So.
Okay. And I know that the area is like, when you look at Oil City and Franklin, you don't think, oh, black metal. You think like, oh man, they probably listen to Rascal Flatts or like Pantera. But but like, how did you guys like say like, oh, we're going to form a black metal band? Or, like, what influenced you guys, or what influenced your like your taste and the direction you guys are going into?
I couldn't really say that we're really at the moment influenced by a lot of black metal.
Yeah,
to tell you the truth,
not really.
It's kind of like the exact opposite. We kind of just
put it
together, and it's something you just have to get out. You know, I know. In the past, I mean, I've listened to a lot of like black metal when I was like a lot younger. Andy's listened to black metal. We're big like Weakling fans, Emperor, that sort of stuff. So. It was one of those things where you're in a band, and as far as like Argus goes, me and Andy playing Argus, and it's one of those things where like we should just start, jamming on some black metal tunes and see what happens. It's more like a cathartic kind of release, I guess you could say. I mean, the metal scene in Pittsburgh is a lot better than it was, like we said 10 years ago. A lot better, to tell you the truth. I used to do production at a club called Laga, and it was a sad scene. I mean, it was just mainly just pop punk bands coming through and all kinds of just, crud that I didn't really appeal to me as far as like metal goes. So, but it's grown, I think, in the last probably like 5 years. It's definitely taken a turn for the better as far as that goes. And I think there's, with a lot of help from like Allure of the Earth and people from like the non-profit promotion type side of it, where it's like they want bands to come through the area and play just to see them, because before you didn't get that kind of thing. I mean, you got it, but it was like pretty haphazard. As far as like my taste in music, I mean, I wouldn't really travel to a show to see, too many bands in the past, but nowadays, I mean, definitely. So it's just something that we do. It's just something that we've done since we were in high school. It's in all essence, it's just a lifestyle. We play music. And I mean, I'm sure like multiple musicians across the country or the world could identify with the fact that, you can have differing tastes in music and need to satisfy expelling them in the same way, So
I think we'll take it as far as it just goes.
Okay.
We're not gonna like try to do it real hard. It's a side project for everybody.
Everybody's got real life responsibilities.
Make a few albums, that's about it.
And we call it black metal
Because of the styling in a certain sense.
We're not trying to
Be black metal, I guess.
really like fit in a certain like genre of black metal.
It's more of like the musical taste,
It's
I guess.
It's an easy way to describe how we sound. I mean, we think of it as black metal, but
It's definitely has cause for atmosphere, especially, in the recording aspect of it. And that's something we're all kind of like in tune with as well. Like, we definitely like to record and, kind of archive stuff. So
it's basically a gathering of like mutual tastes and likeness, and just like friends. Like you said, like from high school and all. So have you known a lot of each other since for over the years? So like,
I remember the first show I ever went to when I was 14 was Eric's band Twisted Attitude. Kevin was also in that band, Kevin from Argus. So I've known about those guys, since I was a little kid.
yeah, this is there's been a scene around this area for like since the early 90s, like probably 90, 91. and a lot of it like stemmed from like hardcore and like you know, punk in a sense, but not your usual like Ramones kind of punk or anything, more, you know, a crusty sense or whatever. But there was always like hardcore and like metal kind of like floating around, and kids getting together in garages and playing, you know. And then we used to have shows a lot at this place called the Masonic Temple. It was a Masonic temple out in Rouseville, and that's one of the shows that Andy was talking about. But we'd get, you know, 200 people in that place, and this is back in the early 90s. So it was kind of like something that kids were starving for around here, and I think they still are in a way, because we put on shows with Argus down at the Barrow in Franklin, and we still get an attendance of like 100 people, which is good, because, you know, in other areas we'll go and, you know, play, and we're happy to play for whatever crowd, you know, comes to see us, you know, with our other bands, but, you know, attendance is usually like, you know, 30 to 80 people.
So you think, in respect to like larger cities compared to smaller cities, do you think the fans are more passionate in like the smaller towns as compared to like the larger cities?
I wouldn't say it's like, you talking about like a demographic kind of thing?
I'm just kind of like curious about like what you think of like the two demographics between like Pittsburgh and Franklin.
I think Pittsburgh's catching on, like I said, you know, in the last 5 years or so, there's been, you know, a gradual attendance of people, which is really cool to see, you know. Bigger cities, it's hard to mobilize people, you know, because there's a lot of distractions. I mean, you could go down the street and go to a bar, or you could go down and see a show, or, you know, it's kind of like up here, especially in the 90s, it was like nothing.
Nothing going on.
I mean, you could sit around and play computer games or fucking whatever you wanted to do on a Saturday night, or you could go and see some live music when you're like 14, 15 years old. That's something, you know. It's a lot cooler than fucking doing most things kids are doing today. I don't know what they fucking do.
Like, otherwise, you know,
That's what kids do
kids would be
around
like
here.
spinning out, like burning out in their trucks and shit. I think a lot of it has to do with the age of the kids. When you're like 16 and you go to every single show, no matter who's playing, because it's like an event. It's like an exciting world getting into like underground music. People get older and they just kind of are like, oh, I just don't want to go out. You know, I don't feel like doing anything. I'm just gonna stay home and shit like that, which I totally understand being older. But you know, as far as in cities, I have no clue. I can't compare it. But around here, that's how it is. You know, kids will be out at shows and then they get older and they'll go to college. You won't see them again. You have 50 kids. At the end of that, 5 will remain. You know, everyone else like goes on to other things.
Gets out of here pretty much.
So we're kind of like,
We're
you know,
the
those
relics.
kids. The
You
We
guys-
are the
you guys
fucking
relics
relics.
from your generation, and me and Zach are the ones that are left from our age group.
Very well put. I know that you guys are working on a split with Relique, who you guys will be performing with on March 5th at the Roboto. So can you tell me a little bit how that got started?
Basically, you know, we know Dan from Vrolok, and he basically put it out there that, you know, we could do some kind of like combined collaboration as far as like a release, and I was, you know, totally about it. I asked these guys if they were cool with it, and, you know, they're pretty fine with it, so that's basically how it kind of started, and it just progressed from there. There was no real like plan of execution. The songs just get written and then you record them. We recorded everything pretty much at our houses, guerrilla style, you know, just kind of like guitars at one place, drums at another, vocals in my, you know, in my room upstairs. That's pretty much how it just kind of transpired.
A traditional DIY ethic in terms of the recording process, so to speak.
I was actually surprised, man, when I heard like the Relic side, you know, what you guys were doing. I didn't expect you guys to have number one as much material or as solid material as you had as early on as you had it. You know, it was like,
I think it has a lot of like what kind of comes together with chemistry and us knowing
Sure.
each other throughout.
Playing
you know,
in other bands
playing in
with
other
each other.
bands.
Yeah, like but between all of us, we've
Playing
all been in bands like pretty much with each other.
Guitar for
for
30
years.
years.
And you
know,
figure,
that-
like-
that does it too.
You figure, you know, like a new band, a lot of times it's hard for a band to get its own sound and its own footing, and it seemed to me immediately like Relic had its own sound. Like I mean, you couldn't tell these guys were a newer band by any stretch of the imagination.
The whole guitar thing is kind of like a crossover, you know, definitely with Chris and Andy. And they do a lot of that stuff in Oh Shit as well, you know, the harmonies and stuff. I'd say it's a little bit more on the discordant side with Relic, but it still has that,
the
the harmonies.
Two
And
guitar
the fast, like,
parts.
tremolo, like, thickening
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. So I think that kind of really works to the advantage of the music. You know, vocally it's different than anything, you know, as far as like the other bands are concerned too. But I mean, as far as the guitar playing, yeah, it definitely has that connection.
Well, I'd like to wrap it up a bit, and I would like to say thank you for spending time with us, and we definitely look forward to seeing you all on March 5th at the Rubato. The show will start at, I think it's around 6 or 7, and it'll be Abysme, Relic, Vrolic, and Mutilation Rites. So I'd like to thank you all again.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
Thanks a
Chris.
lot.
Thanks a lot for
Really
coming
appreciate
up.
you coming up for
Thanks
this interview and hanging with
No,
us.
it's a drive.
Yeah, it is a drive from Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Well,
but it's beautiful up here.
at least it was a good
It's
day.
a great country up here.
Could have been yesterday with that shitty accident at Navy.
All right, well, take care, you guys, and best wishes. Rock
Thanks a
on.
lot.